Welcome back. We've been listening to President Donald J. Trump in a bilateral conversation with the Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, and they talked about a couple of things. One of the things that President Trump talked about was the reasons why the U.S. had to attack Iran as at when they did. According to him, they needed to do that because Iran was already getting set to hit several allies. He was also answering questions from the journalist about the Supreme Court judgment that said his tariffs on various countries' products was illegal without the approval of Congress. He says that was a bad judgment on the part of the Supreme Court. But then the Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, also talked about why Germany is in support of what is going on. But he's also hoping that this war will come to an end as quickly as possible because of the effect on the global economy and the German economy in general. But let's look at staying with the Middle East and the situation in the Middle East. The United Nations is calling on the Middle East warring parties to exercise restraint amid mounting regional panic. Officials maintain that diplomatic talks are the sole path to stopping the carnage. UN human rights spokesperson Ravina Shamdasani warned that escalating violence is spreading fear globally. She emphasized that diplomacy must replace the current cycle of killing and regional despair. The global body is demanding an immediate ceasefire to protect civilians. International leaders are being pressured to facilitate a return to the negotiating table before the humanitarian crisis worsens.
The laws of war are crystal clear. Civilians and civilian objects are protected. All states and armed groups must abide by these laws. The High Commissioner calls on all parties to exercise maximum restraint, prevent further escalation, and take all feasible measures to protect civilians, including migrant workers, as well as critical infrastructure. Returning to the negotiating table is the one and only way to bring an end to the killing, the destruction, and the despair. In the single deadliest and devastating incident, dozens of girls were reportedly killed and injured when their primary school in Minab, in the south of the country, was struck during the school day. The High Commissioner calls for a prompt, impartial, and thorough investigation into the circumstances of the attack. The onus is on the forces that carried out the attack to investigate it. We call on them to make public the findings and to ensure accountability.
And back here in Nigeria, the Christian Pilgrim Commission has suspended pilgrimages to Israel and other Middle East destinations owing to the rising regional tensions. The Executive Secretary, Stephen Adegbite, announced the decision at a briefing in Lagos, stating that all programs, including those by licensed private operators, will remain on hold until security conditions improve. The Commission confirmed that over 500 pilgrims in the final batch of the 2025 exercise returned safely to Nigeria on Tuesday. And away from the Middle East, President Bola Tinubu has moved to strengthen his economic team, nominating Taiwo Oyedele as the new Minister of State for Finance. Mr. Oyedele, the current chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, is a renowned economist and former PwC Africa tax leader. In a letter to Senate President Godswill Akpabio, President Tinubu requested the swift confirmation of the 50-year-old expert to the Treasury. The reshuffle also sees Dr. Doris Anite Uzoka transition to her third role within the administration, moving to the Ministry of Budget and National Planning as Minister of State. With an extensive background in private sector fiscal management and an HND from the Yabatech, followed by Oxford Brookes and Harvard education, Oyedele is expected to bring a results-driven approach to the nation's finance ministry. In the meantime, Governor Siminalayi Fubara has forwarded a list of 9 commissioner nominees to the Rivers State House of Assembly for screening and confirmation. The clerk of the Assembly, Emeka Amadi, asked the nominees to submit their credentials for review ahead of the official confirmation process. The nominations mark a key step in the governor's administration, which seeks to fill strategic portfolios across the state government. The Assembly will now review each nominee's qualifications before approving their appointments. Staying with political matters, the civil society group Fix Politics and allied stakeholders have called for the immediate rescinding of the newly signed Electoral Act 2026, labeling it a grave mistake that threatens Nigeria's democratic stability. At a press conference in Abuja, the executive director, Anthony Ubani, argued that the law deliberately weakens the mandatory real-time electronic transmission of results. The group maintained that the legislative shift away from technological transparency is a calculated move to erode public trust ahead of the 2027 general elections. Mr. Ubani expressed concerns about what he described as deliberate confusion in the system, noting that even after the president's assent, the official gazette of the law remains inaccessible to the public. He urged the National Assembly to urgently initiate corrective legislation to make electronic transmission non-negotiable, regardless of the election timetable already released by INEC, warning that the current legal framework leaves a permanent question mark on the credibility of the future polls and undermines the legitimacy of election authority.
We therefore make our position absolutely clear. This law must be rescinded. The National Assembly must urgently initiate corrective legislation that makes real-time electronic transmission of results mandatory and non-negotiable. It doesn't matter how many times they refuse to listen to citizens. Citizens will continue to engage, civil society will continue to engage, and will continue to advocate, and will continue to speak, will continue to be lawful until they answer. You must understand that democracy rests on citizens that are active.
Well, joining me tonight or this evening is the man you just heard on that tape, Mr. Anthony Ubani, Executive Director, Fix Politics. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Ubani.
Thank you very much.
So there are those who will be very concerned. I mean, we heard you there talk about the fact that regardless of the fact that the law has been passed, citizens will continue to engage. But do you think, before even the president assented to that, you saw the level of protest at the National Assembly and around the country, both physically and virtually. Now the law's been passed, do you think anyone would even think about rescinding, especially with the timeline released by INEC?
Let me say a couple of things in response to your question. Evil only persists because good men sit idly by and do nothing. Like I said during the press briefing today, where there's a will, there's a way. Let me also add to that statement that democracy has inbuilt mechanisms that allow amendments. The law that the president signed, the bill he signed into law, was an amendment of a former bill, right? This bill that's been signed into law can be amended, can be rescinded. And it's the duty, the responsibility of citizens, active citizens who love their country, who believe in democracy, to continue to engage,
to demand that,
to stay engaged.
But the question then will be the matter of timelines. Because if you know, as you know, the timelines been reduced from 350 days to 300 because of the situation of time management and how long it took them to amend the old law. Now we have this new law. And you're saying they should go back again to amend this law. Would it not affect the timeline?
All of this was orchestrated to box the country, to box citizens into a situation where they will say, oh, well, throw their hands up in the air and say, well, the time won't allow it. You cannot allow this law to continue because it is clear that if this law subsists, the 2027 election is already compromised.
But let's pull back a bit here and look at this. Is it just the situation around the electronic transmission of results that's the problem, or there are other areas that you think need to be looked at again?
There are quite a number of things in the law that we can contest. But you know, there's a saying in my place from the village that I come from, that if you chase too many animals at the same time, you probably lose all of them. The one most significant issue in this electoral reform bill is the real-time electronic transmission of election results from the polling unit. And we believe that if that one clause can be taken care of, it will give greater value, greater transparency, bring about accountability in the electoral process.
So Mr. Bani, let's do this. Sell ice fish to the Eskimos, or sell ice to the Eskimos here. We have this law as it is. And of course, you've heard the lawmakers and indeed the president talk about timelines and all. We need credible elections. But you're saying that if this is taken care of, these electronic transmission, it will give credibility. That's part of what you say. It will give credibility to all elections going forward. Can you just, vis-a-vis or in view of the issues or the challenges that have been raised, technological issues, the fact that Nigeria is not exactly ready for technology in its election. I didn't say that. That's what they were putting forward. Can you sell ice to the Eskimos in this?
Now, what you have to understand about the government is that when they want to play their games, they have control of the machinery of information, they have the control of the machinery of intimidation, etc. and etc. So you have all forms of propaganda in the open space. Now citizens are in a situation where hunger has been weaponized. Now they are weaponizing the wrong information. But civil society, we are determined to make sure we see this through. The point is this: we are not against reforms. We are in support of reforms, but we are against regression. They talk about technology. Challenges exist, but the challenges are resolvable. We are saying that electronic transmission of election results from the polling units should be made mandatory and non-negotiable. Simply, that is our demand, because this will improve trust. Trust is the foundation upon which democracy stands. If the citizens lose trust in the election, it's gone. When trust is enhanced, even economic investment in the country grows, political stability grows. And we are saying this single law has the greatest capacity to strengthen our electoral processes. And they hurriedly threw that away and signed. But here's the kicker. Till this point that we're seeing, and I'm very sure you haven't seen the law itself. You haven't seen the law decided. No, nobody has seen it. So there is deliberate confusion. Nobody knows what was approved, what wasn't approved. So we're hearing some government officials are saying one thing, others are saying another thing. But what Nigerians should focus on, should keep their eyes on, and should listen to is just one simple point. Electronic, real-time electronic transmission of results from the polling units should be made mandatory and non-negotiable. When you put a clause that tells you if the network fails, then the form ECAA becomes what will be used in the election. Already you have brought in some discretionary clauses. And that gives room for fraud. It gives room for corruption. It gives room for abuse. We are saying remove all elements of abuse in the system.
You don't think the government or the lawmakers are also considering the fact that people, especially in the rural areas, will get frustrated if they don't see their results going?
Let me tell you something.
They are thinking about the people.
They are not. They are thinking about the people in the wrong way. Let me put it like that. Now, I have said that challenges exist. We do know that challenges exist in terms of the networks. But when INEC, the legislators and the president comes out and say, no, we don't have coverage all over, go and talk to the telcos. Talk to the telecommunication giants, the MTNs and the rest of them. They'll tell you, no, that's wrong. as about how many years ago, we had about 93% coverage. What do you think the coverage will be now as of 2026? What you need is a 2G network. If I send money to my grandma in the village now, she will receive it.
Real time.
Real time. She will call me within the next 5 minutes and pour prayers on me. So these are just convenient excuses. Moreover, technology should have redundancies. These redundancies should provide for offline ability, both to auto-upload, and then when you get to where there's network, the thing will take on.
Right.
So it's just excuses. Let me give you a very good example.
A real quick one.
The presidency has problems with provision of electricity supply. There was this challenge in the seat of the presidency, Aso Rock, right? That was a major challenge. What did they do? Did they pack out of Aso Rock? Did they close down Aso Rock? They released billions of naira, invited experts, and now they are now going to be taken off the grid and hooked up to what do you call it? Solar inverter system. That challenge was solved. Why is it that you have a small, minute challenge in something so huge, so significant about our democracy, which is elections, the heart of democracy, and they can't solve it? Rather, they want to run away.
I guess that's a question that the executive and the legislature in Nigeria will have to look at and find an answer to. Thank you so much, Mr. Anthony Ubani, Executive Director, Fixed Politics. Thank you for coming in this evening.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
We would take a moment, and when we come back, 5 security operatives arrested of allegations of bribery. You want to know why? Join us again. And 5 security operatives have been arrested of allegations of bribery to obstruct arrest in the incident involving Nasir El-Rufai, former governor of Kaduna State, at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja. The security operatives were arrested following an investigation by the Department of State Services, Nigeria Immigration Service, Nigeria Customs Service, and the Federal Ministry of Aviation. The names of the arrested security operatives are Ayuba Yakubu Moritala Inua, Ayuba Yakubu Police, Moritala Inua, DSS, Najib Moritala, and that's the Immigration Service, Musa Adamu from the Aviation Security, and Salihu Victor of Aviation Security. A nationwide crackdown on pocket-friendly alcohol has officially begun. The National Orientation Agency, NAFDAC, and the FCCPC have launched a joint enforcement campaign to mop up sachet alcohol and spirit bottles under 200 milligrams from the Nigerian market. At a briefing in Abuja today, officials declared that the multi-year moratorium for manufacturers has ended. Producing or selling these small volume drinks is now a criminal offense. The move follows alarming data showing that over 50% of Nigerian minors have easy access to these products due to their low cost and easy concealment. While NAFDAC warns of immediate factory seals and heavy fines for violators, the National Orientation Agency is deploying across all 774 local government areas to educate the public on the health risks. Agencies maintain that this is a critical step to curb underage drinking and protect the future of Nigerian youth.
The availability and easy access to alcohol have been identified as a contributory factor to the increasing alcohol consumption among minors. We had an independent survey, and the result was damning. It was found out that 54.3% of minors and underage obtain alcohol by themselves from various sources. 49.9% of them patronize retailers of drinks sold in sachet packs and PET bottles. 50% of our children drink alcohol. Of those who procure drinks for themselves, 47.2% of minors and 48.8% of underage procure drinks in sachets because it is easy to conceal. So they even drink it more than adults.
The National Orientation Agency will lead the behavioral change component of this campaign with full national deployment. The National Orientation Agency, in partnership with NAFDAC and FCCPC, will not relent in sensitizing our people. We will not relent in promoting responsible citizenship. We will not relent in protecting the well-being of Nigerians.
FCCPC stands with NAFDAC toe to toe and shoulder to shoulder on the implementation of this policy. We already have a marching order from the Executive Vice Chairman to enforce maximally.
The bail application of Bellarmine Chatunga Mugabe, son of the late former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe, has been postponed after proceedings at the Alexandria Magistrates Court were unable to continue. Mugabe and his co-accused, Tobias Mugabe Matonze, bail application has now been postponed to Thursday due to technical disruptions and outstanding documentation. The lawyer representing the two said they have been prepared to argue for the bail since last week. News Central's Bongani Siziba tells us more.
A very good afternoon to you and our viewers. I'm standing outside the Alexandra Magistrate Court where Bellarmine Chatunga Mugabe, son of Zimbabwe's former president, that is Robert Mugabe, did return today accompanied by his co-accused, that is Tobias Mugabe Matonodze. They just appeared briefly and the matter has been stood down for the 5th of March to apply for bail, with his lawyer Sinenhlanhla Mngoni saying that it's because of the missing documents and some disclosure from the state prosecutor. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
There are quite a number of challenges today with regards to the proceedings. Firstly, there was a technical failure with the electricity. We weren't able to proceed, but be that as it may, yes, you are correct. There are still some documents that the prosecution needs to provide us with before we proceed with the bail application on our client's behalf.
The two faces charges of attempted murder and defeating the ends of justice following the incident at Mugabe's upscale property in Hyde Park, Johannesburg. The case arose after a gardener was shot and injured at this property, and we understand that he is still in hospital fighting for his life. So the police investigations are still ongoing, and while they haven't located the actual firearm used in shooting, they recovered bullet cartridges on the premises on the day of the incident. And in his first appearance, his lawyer Sinenhlanhla Mngoni told the media that the state prosecutors had questions about their client's legal status in South Africa. And during previous interviews, his attorney indicated that authorities also need to still verify whether both the accused are legal in the country. And if somehow it's found that they are not illegal, it could impact their chances of being granted bail. So the court proceedings will proceed here on the 5th with the state prosecutors and the defense presenting their arguments. The case has also attracted significant media attention given the Mugabe's high-profile background and also the serious nature of the charges. So we continue to monitor this story closely as we'll come back this Thursday here at the magistrate. But for now, it's back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Bongani. Now, the United States has sanctioned the Rwanda Defence Force for supporting M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The move follows violations of a December peace agreement brokered by President Donald Trump. Sanctions target Army Chief of Staff Vincent Nyakarundi and 3 others. Officials blame Rwandan backing for M23's recent territorial gains and horrific human rights abuses against Congolese civilians. The measures freeze U.S. assets and criminalize financial transactions with the RDF. While Rwanda denies supporting M23, Washington insists on full compliance with the resource-rich region's peace deal. And that's it for 6th edition today. Remember, you can send your comments and views to the numbers showing on your screen via WhatsApp. And you see that on your screen, +234 705 50012 1212. We'd like to encourage you to follow us on all our social media platforms. We are at News Central TV. You can also watch us live there, as well as watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, StarTimes channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Neota Ibe.